Welcome back, baseball fans, to another elimination video. We're eliminating the Milwaukee Brewers, who were knocked out by the Rangers. They had played well in their division and were a couple games over 500, flirting with the Twins and White Sox for a wild run at the title, but they would fade, losing 4 of the last 5. The one All-Star was Don McMahon. Needs a special note that was his final year of his career at age 40. Longtime reliever, mostly for the San Francisco Giants. He had 7 saves and a .59 ERA and a 71-cent WHIP. Performed as the best pitcher on the team. They brought in Don Wilson and Al Downing in a trade for Mike Torres, and they got decent results out of those guys. The struggles were with Colburn and Travers, who were very ordinary or below average there, for a 390 pitching staff, which is right in the middle or below middle of the pack, and they are, well, below middle, game under 500, scored 154 runs, gave up 157. Looking at the offense, what a nice little year for Daryl Thomas, a switch-hitting second baseman. He's at 3 defensively, 21 walks, 8 strikeouts, 5 stolen bases, 22 RBIs, all out of the 2 spot. The best card of his career in '75, where he was an everyday player. Once that card expires, he'll just turn into a utility player, and even before that, he might not even be on the Brewers anymore. He's sort of a bridge until, Jim Gantner, Paul Molitor arrive. No one seemed to want Pat Kelly, but he found a home here with a 284 average and a 368 on base. George Scacco struggled with just 241, 4 homers, 17 RBI. Lezcano needs more time to blossom. Charlie Moore does. Obviously, Robin Yount does. Darrell Porter works in the platoon, doesn't hit lefties very well. The Brewers are what the Brewers are. They're just years before they would be relevant, which pretty much is 79 to 82 in that window. They're really good. Always competing for the East, going to a World Series, and so forth. Let's take a look now at the stack of Milwaukee Brewer players. First, the 8 players from 73 that they have to decide who they want to keep, waive, or retire. And there's going to be a decent chunk of guys that they want, and plus guys who are probably near the end, and maybe guys not associated with the Brewers. So they're going to build back next year. They have Charlie Moore catching, but they'll have Darrell Porter most likely. Daryl Thomas, this is that card I mentioned. It's nice. It's nothing amazing, of course, but a solid switch-hitting second baseman. He's got power versus righties. He's an ace stealer and a 16 on base and walks. I mean, that's fine. He did that for the Giants. Giants didn't need him. Giants still had Tito Fuentes at second. Tim Johnson, the left-handed middle infielder. Sometimes he's got power with a card. This one's okay. And here's Yount's debut card, and it's not particularly good at all. It's a 250 hitter. But you got to remember, he's like 17, 18-year-old. He's still growing into his body. Just 3 home runs. And it's going to take a while before he muscles up and starts becoming the MVP and Hall of Famer and lifetime Brewer star. But he's on the roster now, at least. At least can work in a platoon. Here's Pat Kelly, a White Sox card. They didn't want him. And he found a home here. This is a nice Lezcano card. He'll have a really monster card in '79, though. 320 with a 1-3 arm, crushes lefties. But he's the first to really arrive from that true blue brew crew. The early riser, I guess. Ollie Brown was once a Padre. I think he was once a Philly. He's a Philly here. He was just brought in as a nice corner outfielder until the young Brewers arrive, and it's a really nice card, actually. Was in a platoon, probably could be playing every day. And they had Bill Travers in the rotation. This is a really good top of the rotation starter 8 lefty. A lot of teams would love to have him. So I think this is Travers' best year of his career in '76. Jim Slayton has a nice year here. In '74, pitching on 3 days rest. Cobell pitched for the Mets and Brewers. A lefty, and Longman can start better against lefties than righties, where he can be more effective. Billy Champion never really turned into a star in the game. Generally, relief 4, starter 5, starter 5, relief 4, Padre, Brewer. Stats look good. Kind of tweener. Don't know if you should start him or relieve him. What would be better for him. But occupies a roster spot. Al Downing, they got him with this card older in his career in 75, where he's strictly a reliever. No longer starting. So you got a bunch of steady players here, no scrubs. And a lot of guys aren't necessarily attached to Milwaukee. And, you know, every year they should get incrementally better until we eventually get a really good competitive team by the late 70s. Once we get Gantner, Molitor, and the familiar names, then we'll really have a monster on our hands. But let's take a look at those players from 1973 and see who do they want to keep, waive, and retire. All right, the first player to evaluate is Kurt Bevacqua. Probably most known for the star walk-off homer in the '84 World Series with the Padres. Was with a bunch of teams. Milwaukee here, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, then Milwaukee, Texas, Padres, Pirates. Nice utility player. He will have one monstrous card, and yep, there it is, and it's up. This is a boon right here, folks. This monstrous 77 card, he's hitting .333 with a .970 OPS. So, Milwaukee needs a jump on this. This is sort of how you, it's not like you're cheating, but you need to find a guy who overachieves to help bridge the talent gap you have with the White Sox, Twins, and the Royals in your division. So Bevacqua was going to put up, you know, stats like a George Brett or whatever, at least offensively, and a limited number of plate appearances. And you can run this back for a full season. So Bevacqua 77 should be a keeper, or if you're going to trade him, you got an opportunity for a monstrous haul in return for these kinds of stats on a four-year contract. Normally, these type of one-year wonder stat players end up on expansion teams. You could resolve that and consider that the Brewers were actually the Seattle Pilots of 1969 as one of the 8 expansion teams we've added from the traditional league prior to that. In any event, Bevacqua was a keeper, and we really have to put extra special note there so we don't overlook the fact of that significant performance. Did it for the Texas Rangers as well. So, Texas, you want your guy? You might have to pay the Brewers a lot for it, particularly since the Rangers has knocked you out. So, next up on the list is John Briggs. He might be starting to run out of juice here. Actually plays through to 75. Was with the Phillies and the Brewers. Here we are in 73 with a 787 OPS with MVP consideration. And you could run it back another year. Pretty similar numbers in 74. 75, that card will exist too with a couple different teams. So, and with Milwaukee, so I think that's a keeper. If you have too many guys to keep, more reason to trade Bevacqua for a haul in return. Multiple draft tokens and so forth. So Briggs will be kept. Next up is Steve Hovley. With Kansas City, I think he also was a Seattle Pilot, part of that 69 team, I want to say. Yeah, so yeah, he's an original Seattle Pilot. It's been here the whole time. He would move to Oakland and Kansas City. And actually, this is how it ends for him in 73. Had a nice on base, and could be moved in all the outfield spots. He didn't lose range in center either. He was like a 3 in center, a 3 in left, usually. Nice on base, decent player for about 6-7 years. This will be the end of the Steve Hovley career. So we'll retire him. Next up is Darrell Porter, and we know he's coming back. He'll eventually go to Kansas City and St. Louis. But for now, it's about what year through 77 do we like to look at? 3 years in Milwaukee, 1 in Kansas City. You could trade him to the Royals, but they're in your division. You may as well max out his Milwaukee tenure before the swap is made. One can argue he doesn't really blossom until he gets to Kansas City. But there is one really nice year in there with a lot of walks and homers right here. Only hitting .232, but a .789 OPS. Pretty much a step up from where he presently is in 73. 73, he's at .820. And then in 75, he's at .789. So we know that they'll keep him. All right, 4 down and 4 to go. George Scott. They'll keep him as long as the Red Sox are keeping Cecil Cooper before those two guys move for each other. If you're wondering, Boston's got the 75 Cooper, and they love that card. They're going to run that back the next 2 years. So George Scott's got at least 2 more years then here in Milwaukee, and that should be fine, actually. He's older, of course, than Cooper, but he's going to be fine. At the very end, it's not that great, but we're a long way from the very end. He's an all-star in 75. That all-star game is played in Milwaukee. So that makes a lot of sense. And he leads American League in homer and RBI in 75. Boom, boom, boom. Gold Glove as well. MVP 8 on the list. So that's good exclamation points. George Scott still wants to hold the honor of best player on his own team. More reason now. Now that you got 4 keepers and haven't even addressed pitching, this is more reason to trade Bavacqua to a starving team, one of the losing teams in the league that really needs to start from scratch. Like Las Vegas would make a lot of sense. They have the worst offense in the sport, so they could use Bavacqua. All right, next up is Jim Colburn. Jim should have a few more good years. He also, it seems like the Brewers and the Royals keep moving players. It's interesting that we realigned Milwaukee into a division with the Twins and the Royals. You have trade partners and regional partners, and yet the Brewers were in the American League East during that time. So this is an opportunity to really play closer to home, you could say. Colburn's 73, the 20-win card. And then he's in 74, his team doesn't win as much, but he's still decent. He's got a nice 76. 77, he goes to Kansas City. That would be a playoff team. Well, here's a stat here. He leads the league in hit by pitches, but the good news is they don't put hit by pitches on the pitcher's card. So maybe that's an opportunistic gain there for Jim. The Brewers are keeping him. And that's the 5th guy, so now we know we're definitely trading Bavacqua. All right, next guy, Don Wilson. Another trade chip, and if you're wondering, he's been traded 3 times in the last 3 years, mostly because he's, A, very good, but also there's a tragedy in that he passes away in the offseason of 1974, and it stuns the Astros, and that was just a horrible... At age 29 was his last year. So, yeah, one more performance, and it's a question of who. Who do you want Don Wilson to pitch for? He pitched for the Oakland A's and got a World Series ring. How about that? He pitched for Houston. He's pitched for Milwaukee. And they'll have 1 year left of a high-end starting pitcher. Walks, the control starts to get to him. He's got 100 walks and 112 strikeouts. So they're not going to get the king's ransom for Don Wilson in a trade, but they'll get something. And now the phones will be ringing in Milwaukee. This is what you want to do. If you really want to get better sooner, so you got a contender when the Molliters and the Gantners and the McClures and the Gorman Thomases start arriving, then this is one of the best ways to do it. Lastly, Don McMahon. He should be done here in 74. So one of the few players still in the league who played in the 1950s, Don McMahon. His career goes from the Milwaukee Braves, middle 60s, he's bouncing around to many teams. Then he has a nice little run here with the Giants, closing out games. You see the save numbers here. So here's the 73 card, the 148 ERA, and the 092 WHIP. That's one of the best years of his career. He had a good 67 with a couple teams. Boston and the White Sox. 74, he only pitches 11 innings. They're not going to make that card. He's 40. I thought he was 40. He was 43 years old. Went to the All-Star game. All-Star game was played in Kansas City. Did he ever play for them? He may have. He played for a lot of teams, but it's all over finally for Don McMahon. So they got the proper number of retired guys. So pretty simple. You find a team that needs keepers, and you trade and get two of the guys they put on waivers for it, plus draft commodities, plus a potential swap of players where you get an upgrade. And could be Ollie Brown, though. Ollie Brown's very good. I don't know how you can get an upgrade on him in a deal. Let's see. These are all... Daryl Thomas we talked about. I don't know how you can get an upgrade on him, and we already talked about him being a good stopgap before Molitor arrives. I guess Al Downing, yeah. A team might come calling for Al Downing. You could trade him. Knowing that you already have two lefties, you have Travers. I'm going to put a note here about Al Downing being on the trade block. Just another resource to trade. Mostly because A, he's not associated with the Brewers, but more importantly, they already have two lefties in their system, Bill Travers and Cobell. And maybe Bob McClure is in the league in 77, or Jerry Augustine, one of the guys we knew who threw left-handed from Milwaukee during the time. That's it for eliminating the Milwaukee Brewers. Hope you're enjoying this kind of analysis. We'll see you next time.